We are live, Mr. Chair.
Great, welcome to the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission regular board meeting. Regular chairperson Ken Stanix is not here tonight, so I'm filling in for him tonight. I'm going to call the meeting to order and quarter of member attendance. We have Susan Ferguson, we have Mayor Morris, we have Mayor McCaffrey, Mayor Henderson, and we got Jim Thompson here. And also with us tonight, we have Hollis Bartlett and Megan Tinker. We have the back here. Okay, call to order, declaration of quorum and acknowledgement of visitors, conflict of interest. This is your chance to declare any conflict of interest. If not, we move on to adoption of the agenda. I need a motion to move to adopt that. That Councilor, sorry, Mayor McGavin. I keep saying Councilor because I'm running.
Oh, so you're used to it.
Exactly. And a seconder would be Jim. Great, thanks. Question or comment on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Pass. Adoption of the minutes of the board meeting of January 25th. I need a motion for that. Mayor, second with Mayor Henderson. Question or comment? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Contrary, that's passed unanimously. Next, we have our guest Dylan Herbert from T Saunders, and at this point, I need a motion to go into a closed door meeting. So I need a motion for that. I know. Yeah, closed session. Seconder for that. Okay. Question or comment on the motion? All those in favor of going to a closed door session, signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, and that's passed. So at this point, we'll go into a closed meeting. think I'm calling you counselor. I'm not used to the screen up there.
Okay.
Policy, okay, next thing on the list tonight is the business arising from the previous meetings, and tonight we have the grant writer update. And Hollis, you have the floor.
Yeah, this is just a quick update that we have hired person. He's in place and he's already kind of hit the ground running.
Oh, good.
We're looking at a fairly big application for transportation. And I know that he's had a couple of other contacts already, and right now he's kind of lining up. We did his first application because he discovered that the deadline was February 28th, so. So luckily he did that, and anyway, so far so good, I guess is my report.
And are we allowed to say his name here in the public area, or
Sure, it's Nick Curtis
Nick Cruz?
from St. Andrews.
It gotta be good.
Yeah. I have to read.
Bonnie's nodding her head.
Bonnie's laughing actually, but that's okay.
Any questions for Hollis on that? If, oh, Susan, sorry, I'm not used to this yet. So you go ahead, Susan.
Thanks, John. Hollis, you said he's hit the ground running on a large transportation proposal. Can you give us some indication of what that's about?
It isn't complete. It's not complete, so I don't have all the details, but it could be a 1 or 2 wheelchair accessible vehicles, one to be at least one to be operated by dial ride. So we're working with them as well. I don't want to go too much more detail on that one because there's a lot of things yet to get in place. And a couple of other vehicles. I know that Project Village has been working on a ride sharing as well as their car sharing and expansion of services. So we thought we'd put in the application now to see how far we could go with it. And if we get approval, then we'll have to take the next steps and depending on what we get approved for.
Interesting. So this will be for the region overall.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Hollis on this item? But now we'll go to new business, the new committee structure and discussion. Hollis.
Okay, I sent out some notes on that with the package, just mostly so I could gather my thoughts together. And I know that we talked about committees and committee structure. And I know that the first part of last year was extremely busy for all the committees as we were doing our strategic planning. There was many meetings the first half of last year. And then as the fall came on and we started getting into some more work, that the committee meetings wound down significantly, in some cases came to a complete halt. So been doing some back and forth and talking with some of my other colleagues around the province and what structures might seem to work. So this isn't set in stone, or this is my suggestion of what may work. Now that we've had a year under our belt with our new board, our new structure here, and I know that your time commitments are already significant. So in order to be efficient about this, my suggestion was, well, public safety is a mandated committee, so that'll stay in place the way it is. BRAC has been functioning extremely well, and we've had for a number of years, and we've got some very, I wouldn't touch that one. I would probably leave that one alone. Our solid waste committee has been around for 28 years, 27 years, something like that. It's got some very long time members, some good expertise there. I don't feel that should really be changed. It doesn't meet a lot, but there are things that are coming that we're going to have to meet about with solid waste. For instance, we're going to have to need to start talking about replacing that garbage compactor because the lead time on those is huge and the price tag is huge, and so we should probably start that conversation earlier rather than later. Some things like that are coming. So leave that one alone. The other committee that we have, as you all know, is Committee of the Whole. And I thought one suggestion there would be to better define what that is, what those functions are, make sure that gets in our bylaws, understand the Committee of the Whole is replacing some of the old committees that we used to have, like HR and finance and audit, and some administrative stuff. But so that we can ensure that those things, when we meet, that we do cover the topics that we need to cover. Some of them aren't the most exciting thing in the world, but they're just, it's work that needs to be done. So we already have several committees, I guess is what I'm trying to say, in place, but the other committee that I think would be prudent would be a community services committee as a sort of a overall one for all of our economic development, community development, transportation, tourism promotion, and that would be a standing committee populated by board members. Underneath of that committee would be subcommittees that would be subject matter experts in those particular fields, rather than board members necessarily, because that's really what you want, is you want people with a regional focus that are either, like I said, subject matter experts or stakeholders, or it might be industry, it might be several other things that would be on those subcommittees that report to the community services committee, which is what the board would be, or the board would form. And that community service committee does not have to be big. In fact, it shouldn't be big. Really, it should be, 3 to 5 members, maybe. Maybe 5 is too much, because 5 would be a majority vote at this table. So that's something to consider as well. We ran into that before with our last, whatever that committee was called, that it grew so big that it was more than half the board, meaning that if they went to a committee meeting, decided on something, they could come back to the board and just vote it in.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider as well. These are suggestions from me. And in that, what I sent out, I kind of sent out a little chart about what that could look like. Again, open to discussion. I would like to get something nailed down by AU.
Or what would you like to do? Do you want to make a motion to table this and for our next meeting?
Yeah, you can think about it, or
Yeah.
whatever you want to do.
Maybe a motion on the table to table this.
I'll move.
Okay. Mary Henderson. Seconder would be. Mary McEacker, you guys are so good. Just I don't do this very often, so.
If I get someone else's chance, but no.
Okay, then we got a motion on the floor to table this into our next meeting, which is about 2 more weeks, is it? Do we have, so 2 more weeks, we have a meeting? Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, but okay, we have a motion on the floor, a question? So, Bonnie, okay, I'm not used to this.
Sorry. Yeah, I didn't know if we wanted to talk about a little bit. I'm struggling a little bit maybe with the structure, particularly on the community services and the subject matter experts, like how they're going to feed into this committee, community services committee, that's a subcommittee of the board. And I guess my initial thought on it was, why would we make another subcommittee? There's only 8 of us. I would rather have another committee of the whole meeting, just another meeting of this group to have the reporting up, versus having, if we're only talking once every couple of months, doesn't matter if it's 3 of us or 8 of us, if we're having the reporting from the committees. I think, in my mind anyway, I think it's better for everybody to be part of the process versus having different levels of reporting. But that was just my initial take on it. I didn't know if we were going to talk about this more tonight or just table it and talk about it later. So.
Oh, that's a good question. How do you feel with that?
That's valid too.
I like that.
I didn't want to over commit everybody's time,
Mhm.
but if you know, either way, Bonnie does have a really good point. 3 people or 8 people doesn't matter. It's still a meeting, but
Instead of having another subcommittee, just the committee of the whole would cover those areas.
In the same time we do the committee of all.
Right, I think that's what Bonnie was trying to say. Tell me if I'm
So
wrong.
it's not really extra meeting, it's just an extension of the meeting.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's part of our committee meeting, or if we have too much on our committee of the wholes, because we tend to have a lot of topics we're talking about lately. If we have to throw another meeting in there some Thursday night every 2 months, then so be it if we can't schedule it in. That was just kind of my thought off the top.
Makes sense. So there's 5 of us on this committee. It might as well be 8 of us.
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
And my question on that's going to be, what's that going to do for the structure of the committees at the municipal level?
Nothing.
So the committees that were struck to follow the structure composition a year ago of the RSC, which all of our committees are functioning really well, and so far they want to continue. Is that going to matter?
No, because I think you're the only municipality that did that. That's completely up to you as a municipality.
Okay, we had a little bit of that conversation last night at the committee of the hall, so. Okay, thanks.
You know, if what you have now is working well, I'd probably just stay with that, but it's, you know, entirely up to your council.
I'm good with drawing the motion to table. And in favor of just appointing it to all of the RSC.
Okay, does the seconder agree with that? Okay, that's, okay, we get that withdrawn.
Can you say that again, Brad, please?
I just withdrew my original motion
Yeah.
to table, and Mayor McEachern also did.
Yeah.
So we're back to the original motion, I guess, the original conversation.
Yeah, original conversation.
Back to the original conversation, I agree with everything about the creation. I think, though, that we need to put some kind of timelines in there to make sure that committees don't go long periods of time without meeting. Perhaps that they have to meet at least every 6 months or whatever, 3 months, 3 times a year. Something that we put in there. We used to have it in the bylaws, but when we redid the bylaws, that was all part of it was taken out. So now the control on how often committees meet is totally up to the board.
You talking about subcommittees or are you talking about? the
I'm
standing-
talking, well, I'm thinking, well, Landfill Advisory didn't meet, it met once in 2023, and it was a lot of things going on at the landfill, but there was no committee meeting.
So,
That's, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, go ahead.
so if we're gonna do it during the committee whole meeting, can we not just have it, make sure it's on the agenda, because there's some, and then if we don't need to talk about it, we say there's nothing new, and then we move on to the next item, that way we won't miss anything.
That's a good point. Have standing items on
It has
there.
to be a standing thing on the agenda.
I like that.
And this might be a little micromanaging, but maybe it's my day job that's coming in here, but is it possible for all meetings to have a meeting request for the calendars? And I'm not just talking about our meetings like that, like have it built in the calendar, but all of the different committee ones. And the reason I say that is as much as I have engaged counselors, it's good to circle back with them to make sure that they are in fact participating in the committee meetings and I'm aware when they're happening. Just because if they can't make it, I want to take a role of making sure someone else, a proxy, is there to keep us informed. It's just, if we have all these different committees that are meeting, as a mayor, if I don't have the calendar invites, with everything else the day to day, I lose it, but if it's in my calendar, I'm always looking ahead of my calendar. I don't know if it creates too much work for you, but to have, and I know I don't attend those meetings, I just like to know when they are by the calendar invites so I can make sure that they're being well attended by my council.
Yeah,
I'm keeping track after the meetings.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you're proactive in.
No, I'm gonna Hollis to answer that first, and then Hollis. Sorry, and then Bonnie, sorry.
yeah, and we might even come up with a better internal calendar to help everybody. This year I've been like doing a lot of trying to figure out better ways to manage things that is simpler, that is, you know, more. But yes.
Bonnie.
First, I just say I like that idea, Brad, because I agree. I sometimes lose track of what's going on, and if it's in front of me, then I will look at it. But if not, it does give me a little incentive to follow up and make sure whoever is on that committee is attending, or to follow up afterwards and find out what has happened. At some point, the subcommittees, though, I think it would be good to go back and see who is sitting on those and how the active the participation is. You know, I can kind of remember who we put there, but just so we make sure that that we have active participants and that those people are, you know, are participating in the process.
I can send that out tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll send out a list, Bonnie, of who's on the committees.
Okay.
Maybe what we're gonna do is publish a. Remember how I used to send out at the beginning of the month a calendar of all the stuff coming up? We can get back to that. And that would give you And the other thing we could do is actually set the dates for the committee meetings like a year in advance.
That would be ideal.
Yes.
Definitely.
So,
I mean, although you're gonna have some that are gonna be spontaneous or because of a special need that you're gonna have to put in another committee meeting at some point in time because some issue has arisen that needs to be worked on right away.
Yeah.
But I agree that having them on a calendar, even a year in advance would.
yeah,
Yeah.
standing meetings, because some of them are gonna meet quarterly, some of them are
Yeah.
gonna meet. Okay, let's work on that.
So we want to work it some more on this, we can bring it back. Yeah. Okay, we can. Yeah, we do that, so we won't do anything with this tonight.
It'd be hard to craft the motion.
Yeah, there's quite a bit, quite a few changes there though. But why don't we move on then? Everybody happy? Did I miss anything? Okay. Yeah. Okay, next is committee staff reports, the CEO report and a policy. Start of the show tonight.
Yeah, so I sent it out, you can see it there. January, we're a little low on the solid waste, but take that with a grain of salt.
I like the pictures.
We don't have the,
You got a picture of the fire truck?
a few meetings ago, I might have had one, but you can see it in person in April.
Okay, but.
So
That's right. Denny and I get to drive that. Remember?
Well-
We're gonna leave the keys in it.
You certainly get to see it. I told them out there that we're gonna have the AGM at the landfill.
Now he's gonna hide the keys.
And they're gonna bust out the truck and they might even give you a demo if you want.
Okay, great.
Because we do have to test it every month. Anyway.
You might have to fix it the next day. Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, so I had some reports here from solid waste. You can see some pictures of what's going on. Nothing, extraordinary here, but some more gas piping. We are with the gas, by the way, we're testing a system of dewatering the wells. So the wells fill up the water, the gas wells. And so we have test on one, it's got a solar panel and a pump. And so whenever it's sunny, it just pumps, there's no battery or anything, it just pumps when it's sunny and dewaters these wells and gets the water. The problem is they fill up the water and then you can't get the gas.
So it just pumps the water out, let's say, onto the landfill?
Yep.
Is it,
Well,
do we know that the content of the water, how much gas is in it? Absorbed in it?
no, it just. Well, it's not,
But I mean,
it's not even necessarily water, it's garbage juice.
yes, but it's got hydrocarbons in it too, right?
Yeah, so.
So it must be off gassing some,
Maybe,
maybe,
Not sure.
okay, okay,
more knowledge than I got.
okay,
So anyway, we are testing this to see if we can increase the volume of gas that we
all
got.
right, yeah.
Well, and if it works, then, make it worthwhile to do more of that. And a little bit of work there continuing, as we prepare for cell 13.
So the underlay for cell 13 goes down this spring,
It does.
and 14, 15 are being grubbed, 14, 15 and 16.
Well, because they're all,
And yeah, and they're gonna have the same access roads, like the fire truck and everything, yeah, okay.
yeah, so we are gonna be putting out the RFP for the lineup soon-ish.
Be interesting to how much the price of that's gone up in the last,
Surprisingly, last time we did it, no, it didn't.
it didn't, I know last time, but before,
I don't
it
know.
took a jump one time.
I know. We shall see. There's no not doing it, so.
No,
So moving on to the planning part, planning for whatever reason stayed big. We're getting a lot more commercial work. So a lot more commercial buildings or multi-unit buildings, as you all know. So that takes a little bit more time. So we're getting a few of those. You can see the list of things that we were doing. We're still waiting for the Housing Accelerator Fund announcements. I know that they've rolled out for the bigger centers, and I know that they're starting to roll out for the smaller ones. We haven't received anything in our region yet. I fully expect we will.
Has any other reason got there, or it's just been the big one?
Campbellton, smallest,
cameras and
That'd be the
stuff.
smallest one so far.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see what happens there. I just put in some statistics from our own website traffic, so you can see what we're getting there. And speaking of the website, our REMC and I have been working on a little project. I have a web page up now. We're doing a little bit of testing on it to make sure everything's good. But it's an emergency assistance website, web page, or it's a page off our site. And the idea behind it is there's a form, there'd be a list of the warming centers and things like that that are available in the region during some kind of event, like a storm or major power outage. But the form is a central place where residents can put in, it says immediately, if you need police, fire, or ambulance, please call 911. But if you have something like flooding, or you need municipal or provincial assistance with something, there's a few options there. They can fill in the form quickly, and it goes to a special email address that is GMB. It's that REOC 10 one.
Yeah, okay.
And then so from there, whoever's manning that, likely Rhonda, but it might not be because she might assign that to somebody else, whoever's on duty, would disperse that information to whoever. Along with the web page, there is a phone number. There's just a regular phone number, same thing. So that phone number actually goes to, it explains the same thing in the voice, in the greeting. They can leave a message, and that message gets emailed and transcribed to the same email address, to Rhonda or whoever's running at the same time. So either way, it can be a phone or they can fill out the form online. So the idea is that if we have an event like we had Christmas time or some kind of flood or fire or whatever, you know, like forest fire, that kind of stuff, we would put that up on our, you know, prominent on the front page. We'd post that on social, and then we would get other municipalities to also share that on their socials, so everybody gets to know it. 98.1, probably Vicky. So the word gets out that the concept is that people don't know who to call. They know 911 if they need fire, if they need ambulance, if they need police. But for the rest of the stuff, they have no idea. And that was what we were seeing the last time. So this is kind of a central communication method for EMO to direct.
It's a good idea. Do you have a picture of what you've got started there in the page, or if it can be shown tonight? This is where it's a public meeting, but or is it not going to stay that way? I don't want to show anything there.
You want me to show the
Yes, with the one you showed me.
oh yeah, okay. Sure.
That way they see it, they will understand it. There it is, yeah.
Yeah, so it comes up, it's our website.
Right.
Right now, there's obviously no warming centers open because there's no emergency, but when there is, then that list will be there.
Right.
Good that it is that way.
And then the form is quite simple. It's your name. Please contact me by phone or email. So if you click phone, then the phone thing pops up. If you click email, then obviously your email thing comes up. You know, problem flooding, power outage, with a safety concern, roadblock, washout, or other. Ron and I might expand this list a little bit. Kind of early stages, we'll work that out. And the phone number itself is 506-501-5601. And it basically just goes to a voicemail that says exactly this. And then please leave a message, and then that message gets emailed to that REOC as a transcription and as well as the audio. This costs nothing.
Oh, I like that. So yeah, so that gets immediate turnaround too. Like somebody puts an emergency, there's no delay in between the.
It's a matter of letting residents know that they can reach out and somebody will be listening to their concern. Yeah, this is a 911 emergency.
Right.
And right now, the problem was everything's too scattered. There's nothing central for this. So if they're having an issue and it's, you know, something that would be a town of St. Stephen thing, that then Rhonda can direct it to municipal staff. If it's a provincial thing, it can go there. And if it's not Rhonda, she can assign that address, it's a special address, to whoever is running that, or whoever's going to coordinate that email address. So we thought about it, something came up a while ago, and we were going to try to coordinate through the province, and we said, well, that'd be a year and I don't know how many meetings. And I said, I can just do this. It costs nothing to do. I had an extra phone number in our system. And so,
Any questions on that, guys? I guess when in doubt, to always call 911. You know, you never want to take that option away. But
This also gives the wide perspective of being able to realize how big an emergency is. Because before, no one person ever saw all the calls coming in for blocked roads or power outages or whatever, and identifying how widespread things can become or how narrowly defined they are.
That's right. Yeah.
Gives you a lot better handle on servicing them.
It's good.
So is there concern over the volume? That we won't be able to handle the volume of requests that come in? I'll give an example of the last, the big storm we had. There literally could be thousands of messages sent across our region.
well, the thing is, if
Capacity
you
to
do have,
handle.
there's no concern about the technology capacity.
No,
But if our REMC saw a huge volume, then she would have the opportunity to maybe enlist the help of other provincial assets to say, look, I've got 1,000 requests for a bunch of stuff. Things are blowing up in Southwest. I need help. And she has the authority to call in those resources.
so it'll help sell the need.
To Jim's point, we have one central point that has all of that. She can say, look, I got 500 messages that need to be answered today.
I was gonna say, because if I filled that out, I would expect to get a response.
Yes.
Exactly. That's why I said the tour around town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So what's the response time? All of this. You may not know that right now, but just curious.
but in fairness, it should have an automatic response saying, due to the high volume of requests that we're getting, response time could take to this period of time. Otherwise,
And we could do that. That's easy. That's easy.
I think we'll have to do that, because otherwise you probably could get the same person fill out 5 in a day.
Because they didn't know whether or not they're
Yeah.
whether or not it went through,
Yeah.
if they're doing it on their cell phone because their power's out in their house and they're sitting in their car and they drove somewhere to get cell phone coverage and then they're putting in this request. They don't know whether or not they're gonna get a reply or where they're gonna get it. Yeah.
And rightfully or wrongfully, the last power outage, people got very, very nasty,
Mhm.
like very, and it'll be a complaint line more than anything.
Well, at least it keeps them all night.
That is a positive, so they can concentrate on what truly.
And if it is urgent, they should call on.
Yeah, that's what I tried to point out, yeah. Sorry, Bonnie.
No problem. More of a logistical thing. I'm just, as you guys were talking, when you're looking for response by phone or by email, is it possible to have a response by text? I'm just thinking there's a lot of places where you can get a text, you can't necessarily get a phone call, and not everybody is checking email or has data to check it. I didn't know if that was possible.
It used to be a lot easier to do that. It's a lot more there's new rules when it comes to SMS messaging now. I've been struggling with this because we used to actually be able to get texts on our work phones. We can't anymore. And you have to register, there's a whole bunch of things you have to do to register a campaign and a bunch of things. And I cannot register the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission because we're not really a corporation. I tried, I don't know how many times to get this done, and I'm still not done, but it might be possible. The answer to your question, Bonnie, is it might be possible, but not right at the moment.
Because we have, for my day job, we are registered, we have the ability to send mass texts out to people.
Yeah.
We're an incorporated nonprofit, but part of the issue, we had to make a switch and people had to voluntarily say that we could send them messages. That was a bit of a paper exercise. It was time consuming, but I was just thinking, like, if you could click off, I give you permission to text me back, or whatever the, opt-in is as they're filling out the form, it might be, my experience is people prefer the text at this point, especially younger people, over phone calls versus email.
Yeah, I agree. Point taken, and we'll work more on that, but yeah, I've had a heck of a time trying to get that SMS thing back that we used to have.
Any other questions for Owen?
Yeah. I guess I'm, again, picking up a little bit on Brad and getting inundated. How are you going to manage expectations for responses with this system?
It's just gonna take communication and adjustment of the response. If there's not an active response, like if you fill out the form. And right there is where you say, our current turnaround time is 1 hour, or 1 day, or 3 hours, or 15 minutes, or whatever it is. And that would have to, it's something we're gonna have to work through for sure. It's easy
Yeah, I
enough-
just think when you get into a situation like we just had in December, or, in somebody's reaching out for help, and they get a response that, they're not going to get any help for 2 hours. I think you may just be setting it up for more frustrated people, in the whole communications line. So just something to consider.
Yeah, for sure.
Brad.
Yeah, just to build on that, because I think the idea is very strong. I'm just worried about it working against us. So if it's a widespread power outage and I send in that form, what can I expect? I get a call back to say, based on the NB Power website, this is when you're gonna get your power back? Like, or is 100 requests gonna go to key account manager, which was all a war within each other, and we're all saying, well, we got another one here, we got what, like, I just question if NB Power is collecting the outages, why we would too. And I understand to show the need of what's going on here, because it kind of felt like in those calls that we were having every morning, we would get on, it's tell us what's happening in your area. Instead, they can now tell us what's happening in our area versus us just going on what's happening in our cell phone, what we're seeing driving around our communities. I just question what the return would be for, and I'll use the power outage just because I was getting, I don't think I'd be exaggerating to say I was getting 200 calls a day during that time period. My phone never stopped, right?
Well,
But
one piece that I didn't put in, and I considered, and maybe I should put in, is, if you require police, fire, or any of those, please call 911. If you're calling about your power outage, please call NB Power at.
that's what we should be doing.
Yeah.
If there's anything outside of these parameters we should be aware of, please submit the form, right? Like that's probably the way to go about it. Because if I read that, I'd quickly just assume I'm gonna let you know my power's out. Well, that could be on one street, 100 messages you get, right? So
And the other thing I can do, with the phone system is it can.
I feel better about that.
It can be it'll read the message, but if you need to contact NB Power, press 2. And it'll redirect to NB Power. If you need to contact somebody else, we can do like a autorespondent, or if it's outside of those things, please leave them the message. So instead of them making them hang up and dial NB Power, they can just connect through that.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
So there'd be value in that. For us just to be the middle person of relaying
I think we
information,
should stay in our lane.
we're just taking slaps for NB Power then, right? Let's be honest.
I don't want
Yeah,
someone.
no, I really think I'm not sure what to your point, Brad, what the return's going to be for the municipalities on this, if it's just adding another layer for people to complain about.
Yeah, not so much just complaining, is they may think by registering on there that we're looking after them getting the power and they're not even on the list.
Yeah.
And you gotta be on the list, and you gotta be you gotta call in yourself too. Because you have to have the postal code and address.
Yes.
We're not gonna be able to do it for somebody.
No, yeah.
And who's gonna wanna do that, right?
That
They
was-
gotta make sure they call in, or they could be the only person out. Don't ever sit there and think that you're not, like hundreds are out and they're coming. You gotta register.
But even if
To make
everyone
that
on
system
your,
work.
if everyone's on your roads out and you're out too, and you think, well, somebody else is gonna call it in, my phone's not working because my power is off. Cell phone's down right now, so you don't bother to call it in, but then you realize when you see the NB Hydro's outages, they show every house on their map, and whether or not they've reported as an outage or not, and if you're not part of this, if you haven't reported, you're not part of the statistics. So therefore, the number of people that they say outages that they have aren't truly accurate. They might say, well, there's only 9 people in this area,
They go by
but
the numbers.
actually,
That's
it
not
goes
the-
up, yeah.
I go by the numbers,
Yeah.
so, that's right, you gotta call them.
That's
Yeah.
changing a little bit too, is it not with smart meters?
In theory, the
Well,
smart meters are supposed to report themselves as outage, but I don't know. I got a smart meter in November and all it did was jack my bill up, but
What do you mean?
I mean, it went up over $100 in the first month the smart meter was there because I had billing from the first
It is
meter
smart, eh?
and then I had billing from the second meter and anyway, it went from it went up over $100 and then it started to settle back down again just before the power outage. I'm waiting for my bill this week.
To run the
see where it is.
meter takes power, so they're getting.
I don't know what it is. Well, it's
I just
also-
got one, that's why I'm
It's a
asking.
high
I
power,
didn't
it's a
like
high
this
power.
much.
It's like when I turn on my computer and it tells me that I've got three Wi-Fi's going in my house. Even though I've only got one that's mine. One of them is, it recognizes the meter
Yeah.
as being a Wi-Fi. It's locked, you're locked out of it, but it still shows up as being inside your house.
Yeah, I've got one too. I didn't notice the power spike, but I mean, it could have been that your old meter was just giving you a really good deal.
Well, that's what I was scared of, but I don't know, I mean, I'm just, but then it went way
That's
up.
probably what it is.
It went way up, but then it dropped back down. I mean, and nothing changed in the amount of consumption that we used. It's just like it went up and then it came back, it started to level back down to where it was before. And it's like, what happened in that month? Yeah.
Anyway, the point is, I think those are supposed to report when the power's out.
I've heard that too, but I don't think, let's put it this way.
Still should call.
You still should go. Yeah, I learned that.
Bonnie?
Bonnie, sorry.
Okay, I've been contemplating the form while we're sitting here and do we run the risk of if people don't use the form to report, of that being seen as the only outages, the only issues that are there? Like, I don't, because I'm just wondering what kind of uptake we are gonna get. I mean, I know how people are with filling out forms, they're not the best at it. Like, is that, if it reports up to someone in public safety, are they gonna look at it and say, oh, well, there's only been 12 things reported, RSC 10's in pretty good shape. Meanwhile, I don't know, like, I am worried about how that could be interpreted.
I think so, the Indy Hydro's numbers, the people that have reported directly to them are the numbers that are referred back to EMO. So they know what has been reported there. They might, the numbers that come in on this may be bigger or they may be smaller. I mean, people might decide if I've reported my power outage to the hydro company, then I don't have to report it on this website. So we might not see it. But on the other hand, we might pick up and we might find that the numbers are significantly higher than they are for NB Hydro. And then we'd know that
Well, I'm kind of
it's a
hoping
bigger
that,
issue.
that by making it clear that if you have a power outage, here's, I will direct you to the NB Power, that they don't fill out a form request or for a power outage, because that's NB Power's demand. Make this, I guess maybe the language needs to be made a bit more clear. This isn't public yet, by the way, but the language needs to be made a bit more clear that what this is actually for.
It's, I didn't notice it at the time. Did you happen to put in anything about people being trapped in their homes and unable to get out, which technically it's not a 911 situation, but there were a lot of people who couldn't leave their homes because they didn't know whether or not the wires that were hanging across their driveways were alive or not. So therefore they were stuck where they were.
Yeah, so that, I think, was one of the things that was an option was a safety concern with
Down wires.
down wires.
That, as long as it's covered, that's what I was
Yeah.
wondering. Thank you.
Of course, in Nova Scotia, they couldn't get out of the house because they had too much snow.
No.
We didn't have that.
Didn't it block, was that state of emergency blocked too? Wasn't there friction
There was-
between the
there was.
municipality and the province?
Something happened there, yeah.
Yeah, they said
It
that.
was, there, it was on the news.
I think they might even use the
They
word
revisited it,
or
it's not happening again, they say, but,
So in the event of
Crazy.
something like a flood, like a big flood or a huge blizzard, 150 centimeters like Cape Breton got, or things like that. This could be a valuable tool for gathering data.
Any other questions? Now, you wanna work on that between now and the next meeting and?
Yeah.
Okay, any other in report?
Oh, that's certainly more important.
Okay. We'll finish off that first.
So yeah, the last page was update from economic workforce. Economics and workforce development. She's been doing quite a bit of work with revision on projects that may cross both regions. So it's good to be building that relationship with funding. There is a CAO meeting for we're talking about housing, the housing hub itself, and it's a CAO meeting of the region, as well as our housing specialist in Charlene. Yeah, it's about the housing hub itself, but it's mostly about affordable housing and state of affairs and where that might be going.
when's that?
That's going to be, it's in March. I don't know exactly what the date is.
It'll be an invite or is,
Your CAOs will have the.
okay,
There is a spring job fair coming up on March 21st. It's kind of a pop-up job fair. They're offering childcare and transportation. And then the big summit, the Southwest Business Summit in June. There's a lot of planning behind that. It's going to be a first-class event. We've never had an event like this in Southwest. Like some really first-class keynote speakers. A lot of stuff happening. It's going to be a big deal. You're going to see a lot more about it in very near future at the Algonquin.
Yeah, guest registration isn't open for that yet, is it? I haven't seen you there.
No, not yet.
okay, right. It's a big one today.
That was for the municipal administrators.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't.
free lunch.
yeah, I get invited to that too.
Yeah, all the mayors of the RSC get invited, I think is my understanding.
September the 11th.
Yes. I was at the 11th. Exactly.
I know it's the date. 30.
That's my report.
Okay, good. Any questions, any more questions or comments for all of us? If not, we'll move ahead to the financial update.
Well, the financial update this month is going to be slim. Because we're still in the middle of year-end stuff. I don't have the 2024 budget numbers in our accounting package to compare to where we are. But so I did include the income statement the day after that we have. As much as you can tell from that, we are in surplus so far at the end of January. That's about the best I can tell you there. There's nothing outside of budget. There's nothing strange that happened. Wasn't any huge thing. There was windfalls or there was no disasters.
So the surplus is not out of the norm either.
Hmm?
The surplus is not out of the norm.
No, and a lot of stuff isn't adjusted yet, or we haven't paid some bills yet. So
Any other questions or comments on the financial? Yeah, go ahead.
Just a very quick one on the tipping from other sources. It's extremely high. Any reason? As compared to members tipping fees?
it always is. So that includes USA, Western Valley, ICI.
So we're still getting Western Valley right now, okay, all right, and that's, and US and Western Valley, and industrial, commercial.
Yeah.
Okay,
We are moving ahead with our circular materials deal as well. So everything looks fine for that. For May 1st. That means we spend a lot less on shipping recyclable, and there's a new tipping fee that we get for recycling.
circular materials, do you know whether or not they've signed contracts with pickup companies? Yeah,
They are not completed, but I think they've negotiated.
okay. Just wondering how that was coming along.
They're pretty close, I think, to being ready to go. I think what you're gonna see is you're gonna be zero change for residents initially,
That's what I was
which is
hoping.
exactly what we want,
Yeah,
Exactly.
right? So nobody's confused.
It's confusing as it is, but.
Just us confused.
I know. Councilman McCacker, Mayor McCacker. You about to say something?
Well, yeah, actually, I was taking phone, so you're really good. You want to say something. How about like comparison numbers to last year? How come we're not doing that? Like we used to do that.
At least have the budget there.
Yeah, like it just doesn't, like, for example, when Jim asked that question, he might not have had to ask that question if you could see it.
you've actually not last year, but
Oh, yeah, well, valid point. I can do that. No big deal. I can do that tomorrow.
Just gives you an idea of where we're at.
No, I can send that to you tomorrow. I can tell you, we are down on foreign waste, on USA waste, but that's, we do work, so. Yeah, it's a good one. I'll send them tomorrow.
Any other questions or comments on the financial? Do you need a motion to accept the financial or? Or you want to, you're happy? Nothing, okay. Upcoming meetings, committee of the whole is March 7th, 2 more weeks, then we have March, I added in March 14th, in between the 14th and 21st and 14th. 14th, we're in St. George.
Mhm.
And that's the
Forum.
Economic Development Forum, and the 21st is the board meeting.
And that meeting will be held at McAdavid Conference Room.
Because we are
So twice in March, you're going to.
we double booked that night for Prac also meets that night. On the 21st.
so they're meeting before or they're.
Oh, they're gonna be here.
Yeah.
They're gonna be
That was
here, okay.
14, 5:30.
6:30.
6:30.
6:30, yeah.
The forum is starting at 6:30.
Yeah.
So it's
21st, we're in Maggie
there.
So, question for you, John,
Yes, yes.
on that. How big is the boardroom?
Oh, I already looked into it.
Did you? Okay,
But the boardroom's probably the size of this, like the little small.
The
room.
max capacity was 22, we're all set.
oh,
Okay,
Yeah.
good, yeah.
Oh, your boardroom up there, actually, it's probably,
Yeah, it's a little bit bigger, a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit bigger than this room. Yeah.
perfect.
it's nice board, nice chairs.
Okay, question and answer with the public. Do we have any public questions, Hollis?
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
I need a motion for adjournment. Jim?
Before we adjourn,
Oh,
one quick
sorry.
question. Something that was an action point, I just wondered whether or not it's been completed yet from the last minutes, was that we were gonna trademark our slogan for tourism.
So I've done some preliminary work into that. We can do it. It's not gonna be cheap. But. We can do it. And it takes a little while.
You're
Well,
talking 1,000, you're talking 10,000.
Maybe under, no, it'll be under 10.
Yeah, so it's closer to 1,000.
Well,
it'd be a lot worse if you
Five
didn't
then.
it'd be a lot worse if you didn't get to use
You're
it.
getting closer. Hot, cold.
Let's do this.
He's not gonna win the car.
Like, it's one thing with 10, but I don't think if it's a long-term plan, I don't see why a number like 5,000 would scare us away if
Right.
Oh,
we're investing into our brand.
and
We're
losing,
spending a lot more money on a brand than $5,000.
true enough.
Yeah, so when we come back to committee of the whole, we can discuss it then, all right? Like with that, I'm ready to adjourn.
Motion for adjournment,
Yeah.
Jim Tubbs, and that's still closes the meeting. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank
Thank you, Ken.
I know, I'll get better at this, but no, Ken's gonna get better. I'm not used to looking up there.
The 14th at Macadam.
Yeah, 14th.
At 6:30 PM.
7th is back here though.
And 21st is Mac David.
Yeah.
7th is back David.
Yeah.